Hello, I'm Double D and this is another after action report for Combat Mission Battle for Normandy. This video is for Battle number 7 in the Scottish Corridor campaign, which follows the 9th Cameronians and the 2nd Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders during Operation Epsom, 3 weeks after the D-Day landings. So far I've been victorious in 5 of the 6 battles, only failing to secure Tourville on the main road west out of Caen. During the last 2 days the Germans have been pushed back across the Odin River. The 2nd have set up a defensive position on the southern side of the Odin with a small hamlet of Les Vilaines. For the last few hours the Germans have been bombing the 2nd with Nebelwerfer rockets, which the Scots have nicknamed Moanin' Minis. All of this brings us to battle number 7, titled Night Music. It's 21:45 hours and it's raining. A whisper of Stand 2 creeps through 13 platoon as vehicles are heard approaching from the west. Weapons are loaded and the defenders move into position. I have no artist support, having used it all whilst chasing the retreating 2nd Panzer Grenadiers across the River Odin. Battalion orders are simple: destroy the attacking force to deter future counterattacks and hold our ground, identified as call sign Sonnet. 15 platoon, together with the 3rd Bren carrier from 4 platoon, are on their way. ETA approximately 5 minutes. C Company has not been reinforced and is around 60% strength. Ammunition is okay, most of the company having scavenged what they could from vehicles and transports earlier in the day. What we are short of is mortar rounds, with only 5 or 6 HE rounds across the 2 mortar teams. There was also reports of vehicles. The only AT I have is 2 Piats, with a few rounds between the 2 teams. If we move to the AO, we're looking northwest, with 13 platoon in the forward setup zone and 14 platoon with 2 Bren carriers from 2 section, 4 platoon in the rear setup zone. My orders are to hold Sonnet located in the centre of the map, just forward of the hamlet at Les Vilaines. The attacking force is expected to approach from the west, top left of your view. My first defence line has to be at Les Vilaines and Sonnet. The 2nd defence line is too far behind Sonnet to be of help. I shall load as much of 14 platoon as possible on board the 2 carriers and drive them forward to the 1st defence line. I shall then run the carriers back to collect the rest of 14 platoon. 13 platoon is concentrated on the right side of Sonnet. I shall widen my line using 14 platoon and the 2 dismounted Bren teams. Based upon the success I had crewing the Bren carriers and using them as mobile MGs, I shall use the same tactic. They've proved to be extremely effective, more so than the standard Allied half-track. The Bren carrier seems to provide much better cover for the gunner than a half-track, and the vehicle is lower, presenting a smaller target profile. Let's take a closer look at the AO. Vilaines has a number of brick-built buildings, but they're set back. And if I didn't have to hold Sonnet, I'd have some opportunities for defence in depth. There's a hard road running west to east into Vilaines. I have foxholes and some decent concealment, whilst Jerry has to advance over open terrain. It's dark, which does give him some benefit, but it's a good defensive area, and I'm pretty confident. The carriers start to relocate 14 platoon. And advance into a Nebelwerfer barrage. One casualty, could have been a lot more serious. I get my first spots. The 14th have been a bit shaken by the barrage. And it's not over. On my left flank, I position one of the crewed carriers. And C Company fire their first shot with a 2-inch mortar. The response is pretty emphatic. Through the sporadic fire, we spot an advancing team. They're pinned by a carrier. We trade small arms fire across the darkened field. The attacking Panzer Grenadiers try to gain fire superiority. But I have enough cover and concealment to prevent this. It appears the rocket bombardment has ended, so I bring up the rest of 14 platoon. I'm using the Bren carriers to support my defence, so they're going to have to come up on foot. German fire is getting heavier, and they have an armoured car in support. Two Section 13 platoon start to withdraw from the hedgerow. One section is shaken and pulls back. The Germans appear to be using platoon attack drill and leapfrogging forward under cover of fire. I blind the armoured car with smoke. The third Bren carrier arrives, together with 15 platoon. And I immediately advance them to join in the battle. The Bren carriers are providing most of the defensive fire. And pushing back what appear to be breach teams. 10 minutes into battle, and my right defence line is struggling. The German suppressive fire is too heavy, and my initial defensive line has had to pull back. I'm advancing 15 platoon on my left flank to form a second defensive line, and then I'm using 13 platoon and 14 platoon on my right flank to set up a second, deeper defensive line. And I'm moving the 3rd Bren carrier to defend the centre. I shall wait until I've blunted the German attack, and then push forward up to the hedgerow to ensure I hold Sonnet. Let's move back down to the ground and get on the soldiers' level. The German attack is poorly coordinated. If it wasn't for the armoured car, I'd even consider a counter-attack. The Bren carrier on my left flank catches another team in the open. To my rear, 15 platoon reaches the outskirts of Les Vilaines. They'll advance up to my left flank and support the Bren carrier. Meanwhile, Captain Atkinson, together with one of the 4 platoon Bren teams, has pushed forward up on the left flank. I think the 2IC has his eyes on the armoured car. The German attack appears to have halted. 15 platoon push forward and join the 2IC, Captain Atkinson. It's 20 minutes into the battle, and the battlefield is silent. My primary order was to inflict as many casualties as possible on the attacking force, but I'm reluctant to move forward and take on the armoured car. C Company has suffered enough casualties today, and I call a ceasefire. Despite the ceasefire, I get a British Army major victory. I have secured Sonnet, but failed to inflict sufficient casualties. But I kept my own troops alive, which is a good thing. The Grenadiers only secured 18 points, so that's a big gap, tally of 200 odd to add to my total campaign score versus the 18 for the Grenadiers. We look at the battlefield, you can see the disposition of the forces. We first look at the Axis forces, the armoured car, and then you can see some of the infantry. They're all pretty much rattled or shaken. Don't forget to look at the battle stats on the lower left hand corner. If we look at the defensive line, you can see there's a couple of TRPs. If we look at the attacking teams, yeah, you can see some squads there, a couple of breaching teams, all wiped out. Without clear fire superiority, it was not going to end any other way. If we then have a look at the second 15 platoon, okay, they've got no kills because they've just joined the AO. We then look at the brain carrier on my left flank. Yeah, so there's where all the casualties are coming from. The second brain carrier. Yeah. We then look at the brain carrier that was initially on my right flank. Yeah, 8 kills. A quick look through the rest of C Company. So that brings the 7th battle to a pretty quick close. I hope the video was of interest, and please continue to follow the campaign, subscribe, and I'll have more videos to come soon. Goodbye to everyone.